Good morning. Oh, yay. It's been a long time. I don't even know if I know how to do this anymore. Jagger and I are saying hello this morning. We're live. It's been so long. I was just enjoying my quiet time this morning. Got my son off to school. It's a quiet home. And I'm not sure if any of you have been noticing, following along a bit, but because I'm writing a lot, that's what the Lord is asking me to do. I just feel it in my spirit. I'm doing a lot of writing each day rather than showing up this way. And so I'm reading through the book of Proverbs, and I was reading chapter 26 today. Hi, good morning. Good morning. And just the power of what I was receiving from chapter 26, like it's like I was like sitting with, again, I don't know if you're reading what I'm posting, so some of this may not make sense, but I'm going to speak as if you understand what I'm saying. I've been posting one chapter, one bit of wisdom through one chapter through the month of January. But because some of the chapters I've wanted to sit with longer, I'm actually on chapter 26 rather than done with the book of Proverbs. And it has been an amazing month sitting in my quiet time. Some call it the secret place. And the wisdom I have been receiving has been ridiculously perfect. And this morning in chapter 26 is yet again, I'm envisioning most of the mornings I'm envisioning like the second chair that's in my room in my where I'm choosing to just enjoy my quiet time. And I'm picturing like actually wisdom being like a grandparent. Yet this morning I was picturing it was like Ryan's grandpa, because he's so witty. He has all these quips. They're just spot on. And it was very much like wisdom from the book of Proverbs. And so it was just a little more on the humorous end, yet pretty serious topic. And as I'm reading through it, it's like all of it. I had no idea how to just choose one bit of wisdom, one of the 28, I think, is in chapter 26. And so this is why I'm on this morning. Specifically, what came to mind and what I want to share here is being diagnosed 2 years ago, about this time in the winter, 2 years ago, being diagnosed with a brain disease. And my whole world shifted. However, when I got diagnosed, it not only shifted because I was getting sicker and sicker, but it made sense to how I was feeling the majority of my life. And so I'm going to specifically talk to you about this healing journey I've been on, which has been, the healing over time, over the last 2 years, which I got diagnosed 2 years ago. He says, good morning. Thanks everyone, by the way, for encouraging and telling me that you're missing our videos and the Jagger Tara moments. And I've got my running clothes on because I'm going to work out after this. And he smells them and he's like, I know that jacket. Are we going outside? Yet he goes outside to go to the bathroom and it's practically freezing as he's using the bathroom. So he knows this is not the time we go out and go on runs. But anyway, good morning. Good morning, Sherry and Lisa and Sue and Angie, everyone else who's popping on that I don't necessarily see you because you're not commenting. I really do miss you all. I miss interacting this way. So anyway, about this healing journey, this is really what I want. I'm trying to tell myself, Tara, focus, because there's so much miracles and good news and just things that are blowing my mind as I have just trusted his divine wisdom. I've trusted God with my entire life. You have access to my entire life, my health, my children, your children, my marriage, my career, how you want me to show up. Y'all, I every single day, every moment, how I show up in the world, how I respond to people, like I have surrendered all of it. And I've been on this journey more like this since in it's 2015, and then every year gets more and more beautifully ridiculous, more and more beautifully ridiculous. And so this ridiculousness, I want to stay focused on being diagnosed with a brain disease and what I was reflecting with wisdom through the book of Proverbs chapter 26. So that's my focus. That's where I'm going to stay focused. So when I'm reading chapter 26, each and every verse, I thought, this is the first chapter. I feel like I want to take February and go through every single verse one a day, but I'm not there. And that's quite logical. That's quite, and I'm getting out of that rhythm. But each and every one of them were so profound, answered so much. And if you hang in here with me or come back and listen when you get a chance, I'm going to talk about how we honor ourselves and others, what that really looks like when we're honoring. We're going to talk about fools. We're all fools. But it's so funny when I'm reading Proverbs and I see a statement like, when arguing with fools, you guys, I immediately think, gosh, it's so straightforward wisdom that you're just calling people fools. I don't know why that triggers me a little bit, but I mean, he just says it, gets right up on in there and calls it like it is. You're being a fool. And so I kind of appreciated it more than feeling guarded, like, oh, it's the Bible. Should we really be talking about people being fools? It's like, yes, because that's the truth. And love and truth, and it might give us this little moment of conviction, but it's true and it's loving and it's always for our good. Good morning, Juliet. And so, okay, so I'll get right to it. So I'm going to read some of the things that I was captivated by, and then I would like to attach it to the incredible aha moments I was receiving. My eyes water a lot in the morning. What I was receiving in particular to when I was diagnosed with this brain disease, I felt like there was so much noise. There was doctors' opinions. There was a DO and an MD opinion. There were friends' opinions and just a common person that I was interacting, not necessarily a friend opinion. There were just so many voices and so much noise and so much advice and so much, not necessarily criticism. I don't think ever criticism. I may have felt like some of it was criticism, but lots of advice. And I just remember being in such a season of like so much information and so much noise. So when I'm reading these verses, I read, honor doesn't go with fools any more than snow with summer or rain with harvest. Honor doesn't go with fools. Honor and fools, they don't go together. So like when we're reading anything, not just scripture that sometimes doesn't make sense, but when we're reading, when we're listening to people that we think are wise, we want to lean in and notice a pattern and just stick with it. And so then it says something about verse 2, an unfair curse. And because I do a lot of circling, I do a lot of interacting with scripture. See how much I write in my Bible. I do a lot of interacting with scripture. I'm interacting with wisdom. And so I'll say, what do you want me to know about that? What does that mean? And sometimes I'll go online and I'll Google words, or I'll use BibleReference.com or the Bible Nerds page. Not Bible Nerd, the Bible Project page with Tim Mackey. And I'll just learn about the meaning because I don't always understand what wisdom's saying the first time. But because I trust wisdom more than myself, capital W wisdom, God's wisdom more than I do myself, I want to keep pressing in. So hang in there with me. It's truly fascinating. Well, it was for me. I really do think it'll be for you too. And so I read verse 2, and it's just talking about how if anyone is speaking an unfair curse on you, and I didn't know there were fair curses, but we'll get past that for a minute. But just these unfair curses, it won't land on you. It won't harm you. When someone speaks something over you that feels like such a curse, like such a word curse, not just a curse word, but a word curse. It's like, that is not for good. That will not harm. So this whole chapter continues to speak about fools. I mean, one after another. It was both troubling because it just speaks right. It just says it, it's name calling. Like, dude, you're calling these people fools. Like, I just feel, I don't know why, y'all. I don't know why. It just kind of troubles me a little bit when we just say it. Verse 4, when arguing with fools, don't answer their foolish arguments. Verse 5, when arguing with fools, be sure to answer their foolish arguments. So I'm going to leave that one, but that's the one that I really pressed into, because there was like, they didn't go together. They were opposing one another. Verse 4 and verse 5, when wisdom is saying, hey, don't argue with fools, don't entertain what fools are saying. And then verse 5 says, argue with fools. And I'm going to leave that one. I'm going to come back to it. But that's the one that tripped me up the most. That's the one that I really felt I could just feel it in my being. I wanted to pay more attention to, like, why would verse 4 and verse 5 contradict one another? But remember, my point is, first, as I'm just going through this, I'm noticing this concept of, like, wisdom is focusing on fools and not honoring fools and not arguing with fools and or arguing with fools. Verse 6, trusting a fool to convey a message is as foolish. This is hilarious. This is as foolish as cutting off one's feet or drinking poison. I mean, can you imagine, like, your grandpa just sitting there at the kitchen table and he's just like, listen, trusting a fool to convey a message is like drinking poison. It's like, man, that's real good. If you're listening to a fool to share a message, you know he or she is a fool. Why are you trusting that messenger? It's like drinking poison. It's like cutting off your own foot. It's not good. So I have a bigger message. I'm just going to keep going. In the mouth of a fool, a proverb becomes as limp as a paralyzed leg. Like, this is just hilarious if you heard this from an 80 or 90-year-old grandpa, just saying it. If a fool Proverbs is wisdom. Okay. It's one of the few books of wisdom in the Bible. And so if someone who is a fool, who's acting a fool, is speaking what he or she deems as wisdom, you're supposed to ignore that. Verse 8, honoring a fool is as foolish as tying a stone to a slingshot. It ain't going anywhere. It's not going to make a difference. Honoring a fool. Now, this is me reading it. I love the word honor. When I was a principal, I was told a lot, and I didn't even know the language I used until someone said, multiple people were telling me, you use the word honor a lot. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, like, you really honor your staff. You say, I'm honoring, I'm respecting what you're saying. I'm honoring, I have a reverence for what you are doing. So I use the word honor, like I honor others quite a bit. And so God, when I see the word honor, it does mean something special to me. So that's why when I'm speaking from scripture, it's coming from my experiences also. So you might get something different. Hang in there with me. It's going to go back to my brain disease. This is really amazing how this book, this Bible, is truly interactive if we allow it. It's not just this this dead paper with this old ink that does not impact us today. It does. It's alive and it's active. It's God speaking today in our today circumstances, even in a brain disease. So, even a statement like an employer who hires a fool or a bystander is like an archer who shoots recklessly. Now, I read all this once and then I go back again quickly. I mean, I tend to do some rereadings so that I really understand, like, hey, Grandpa, tell me that again. Wisdom, wise one. Wait, tell me that proverb again. Because the more we hear it, the more it just makes sense to the current circumstance to bless our today, to bless our tomorrow, our current circumstance. And so I'm not thinking about being an employer or who is hiring someone, but do we employ? Do we take on? Like, think of words in the Bible different than the one word usage, like a boss and an employee. And so as I kept reading, I'm thinking, do I employ? Do I hire? Do I take on as staff this counsel and keep them in my head and have fools in my head? Like, be willing to read scripture creatively and just you'll get your socks knocked off when you really think about it personally. It's really cool. This is really powerful too. As a dog returns to its vomit, you guys have heard these before. So a fool repeats his folly. This one's going to be a big one when I come back to this brain disease. There is more hope for fools. There is more hope for fools than for people who think they are wise. Just people who are thinking, hey, I'm wise. I have all the answers. I am wisdom. All the wisdom comes from inside of me. One of my things that I implore the most is to honor the spirit that we are spiritual beings and we're attached to a spiritual God, a God who knows, a God who made us. Anyone who wants just to be wise, okay, you feel a little, what you need? What you need? It's time. Is he gonna? Okay, you're a little distracting. I'm trying to focus. Good morning. What you need? You can say hi to everybody. We'll say hi to Patty and Dawn and Angela. He's just getting settled, and the sun is coming in. It's gonna be interesting. Okay, so yeah, so people who think they're wise and it comes just for themselves, that I know my own answers, which is also true, by the way. I heard the way I said this. As I coach people, I do coach people that they do have the answers within inside themselves. There is truth, but that's not the full and whole truth. The full and whole truth is that wisdom is connected to greater wisdom beyond our brain disease, beyond that diagnosis, y'all. That's why we can't get wisdom only from within inside ourselves. That's only half the truth. The other half the truth is wisdom comes from a divine source. And this is why I'm healed and on a healing journey. Because the wisdom isn't just coming from ourselves. And we are more foolish and acting a fool when we think otherwise. Are you feeling unsettled? What's you need? He's like, I want to go on a run. That's what I need. Okay, a couple more and then I'll get to my point of what wisdom was doing for me in my quiet time this morning. Good morning, Kathy. Hi, Kim. Are you in Florida? Good morning. Okay. This is getting real good for me. So hang in there. And I hope what helped me and is what is literally physically healing me. I can't wait to explain it. Okay. Verse 13, the lazy person is full of excuses. I think I did one of the chapters, I focused on this in the book of Proverbs. The lazy person is full of excuses, saying, I can't. This is the one that I posted about. I can't go outside because there might be a lion in the road. Like, there's not lions in roads, okay, 99.9% of the time. But anyway, I really am focusing on the fool as being a lazy person who's full of excuses. Let's see what else. Verse 15, some people are so lazy that they won't lift a finger to feed themselves. Woo, this is going to get real good about what I'm about to share with this brain disease. Some people are so lazy. Now, the book of Proverbs is a lot about the words we use and the work we choose to do. So if you're coaching with me now, listen, what do you need? How can I help you? Okay. Let me just move the camera back. Good morning, Shannon. I love you. Okay, so Jagger and I bet you want to be up here. Let me move out of your way. Do you want to get up there? Okay. All right. All right. Some people are so lazy. Basically, the flip side of being lazy is people who work hard. So people who choose not to do the work. That's what I wrote. Yeah, you want to get up here. Okay, y'all. Hang on. We love to take care of our Jiggy. I mean, come on. We can't have him uncomfortable. We're just doing, this is my little morning show. This is just true reality. Here we go. Don't catch on fire. This is what I know. You just need to be warm. It's like, 10 degrees around here. So he's cold. He's cold. Oh, come on. Who doesn't love them some Jagger? Look at that sweet boy. Okay, I'm about to be drowned out by sunlight. Well, that's a horrible problem, isn't it? Okay, let me get to the point now that Jagger's settled. Y'all settled? Whatever you're doing on your way to work or whatever. Okay, so some people are so lazy, meaning some people don't do the work. Some people don't do the work. That they barely even are feeding themselves. They are killing themselves. They're not, this is what is starting to ring true when I was in my quiet time by myself with wisdom, thinking of the brain disease, thinking of the work that I chose to do, that no matter what, and even if there is work to do. And I'm not talking about career work. I'm talking about work with God. What do you want me to know? And what do you want me to do with this diagnosis? And some people, when they get diagnosed, okay, excuse me. I think I'm in Jagger's way. Okay, y'all, I'm going to have to stand up and go close this blind. Are you going to hang in there with me? Maybe this is why I haven't been doing lives. Because they're so live. They're so real. God forbid Jagger's uncomfortable. All right, hang on. Talk among yourself. Oh, are you going to steal? Are you stealing my... He stole my spot. Oh my gosh. Okay, excuse me. No, oh my gosh. Who is so spoiled in this household? Lay down. I have a message to give about a brain disease and godly wisdom. It's not going my way. I'm employing the wrong employees. Okay. So funny. I miss you all. Do you guys miss this? You don't miss this. This is pure chaos. Okay. Let me see if I can see from here. Are you okay now? You're better now. You're happy. Okay. So, but truly what I'm about to share with you, this verse, chapter 26, verse 15, feeding themselves. Woo, that's ringing true for me right now. I wanted to do the work that needed to be done. I'm the person responsible to feed myself, to keep myself alive, to keep myself on track. And it doesn't discount what doctors, excuse me, it doesn't discount what doctors are telling me. It doesn't discount what good friends' wisdom and their beliefs about maybe what might help me. I knew how important it was to tap into my body wisdom that was attached to God's wisdom. And that was my number one source of healing. And it worked. Y'all, I can't wait to tell you more. Lazy people consider themselves smarter than 7 wise counselors. Whoop. I'm not going to over-explain it because I'll get back to this in a minute. But I have like a double arrow next to it. Lazy people consider themselves smarter. Period. I'll come back to that. Nope, that's for another time. I'm trying to think of any of these. Yeah, any of these. Verse 21, a quarrelsome person is the opposite of being a person of peace. The goal as we are developing in our soul, our mind, our will, our emotions, the wholeness of who Tara is, the wholeness of who Lisa and Amanda are, as well as our spiritual formation, becoming more and more like Christ, both fully, Stephanie, fully like Christ, the power of both and the spirit and the soul, and then keeping our body healthy. And no matter what, and even if all three, the triune part of our being, our wholeness is body, soul, and spirit. And if we're a quarrelsome person and we're acting foolish and we're pretending we are fools, we're pretending we're wise, not seeking wise counsel or being careful whose counsel we take on, who we employ and hire to be counsel. Come on now, it's all coming together. But to be a person of peace, that's the goal. To surrender to be a person of peace so that we can have good discernment as to what steps we take. But verse 21 says, a quarrelsome person starts fights as easily as hot embers light charcoal or fire lights wood. So, okay, that's enough. That speaks for itself. And then, yeah, that's enough. So I circled probably 10 of these verses that have to do with it felt like wisdom. And I didn't know this. This isn't why I was reading chapter 26 was, my brain disease is on my mind. And so I'm going to read chapter 6 to help me with the brain disease. No, that was what of all the things I'm dealing with in my life. And if y'all know, it's a lot. It's a lot. I know. I see your names. I know you too have a lot going on. In this world today, there's a lot going on. So when we open up scripture and we sit with wisdom, wisdom is going to give you the very thing. It's going to be the greatest coaching session. I'm serious. To be able to say, hey, this morning, I want to talk to you about this. And when I talk to you about this, it's going to bless other areas of your life without us even talking about it. That's the greatest coaching session. You know what I mean? If you don't know what I mean, you should be coaching with me because it's an amazing feeling. Okay. Anyway, I'm sitting with wisdom this morning. I didn't know I needed to talk about the brain disease aspect of my life, but it came up. And so I reread and read, and it doesn't take me too long. Sometimes it takes me longer. Sometimes I get it pretty quickly. Now, here's the thing, and I'm not going to over-explain it because good morning, Marcia and Angela. I'm glad you're enjoying this. Thank you so much for being with me, Mona and Stephanie and Cindy. It's been a long time since I've done one of these lives because I've really felt, my bedhead and everything, because I really felt that I'm God invited me into it. I could feel it in my spirit. Talk less and write more. That's hard for me to do. So I'm working on my writing. And so they're quite lengthy. And I understand if you guys haven't been reading all of them because they are quite lengthy, my posts. But anyway, today is a live. And because I just felt that this one, I might do both writing and speaking it out. But I'm not going to overtalk this one because I have been working with my friend Laura. We have a podcast out called Abundantly Me. It's one word. It's Abundantly Me podcast. And it's script in the flipped. That's not my brain disease. That's just Tara messing up words. Flipping the script, choosing love over fear. So this podcast is focusing on, Laura and I are focusing on how easy it is to focus on fear and our limiting beliefs. And if we flip the script and we look at the exact same thing, look at the brain disease, not through the lens of fear, but through the lens of love. And so Laura and I, each episode, which by the way, it's Wednesday. So that means the new episode, I think episode 8, it's 2 months young. Yay. So it's episode 8, came out this morning. It comes out at 5 a.m. every Wednesday. And one of the episodes, I talk about what I'm talking about now that I'm about to get into. So the length of it and the meat of it, if you go to episode 5 or 6, it is, I'll talk about, what happened that really troubled me. And in regard to my brain disease. So to explain this a little bit, give you context. Thank you. Oh, Michelle makes me do the hard things too. Yes. You're talking about the Wheel of Fear, I think, aren't you? So we have a Wheel of Fear component on the podcast, and it's things that we fear. We put it on this app that has the spinning wheel. And so at the end of every episode, we spin the wheel. Well, whoever loses, and I lose almost every time. And so there's a slice, there's like 12 different fears. And so wherever the wheel lands, that slice of fear, it's an invitation into love. Like, what is love saying about what it is that I might be fearing? In every single episode, nearly, I've lost rock, paper, scissors. So I have to spin the Wheel of Fear. And every single episode has blown my mind every time. Thank you, Michelle, for this, because yes, it too has given me courage. And my friend Laura, she's like, oh my gosh, how blessed you've been through pressing into all these fears. You guys, it's ridiculous how every single episode, mostly over these 2 months, the script in my head, the script in my life, more that I have to share with you, so much good news that y'all don't even know about yet. And it's not time for me to share much of it. And some of the stories aren't for me to share. But every time throughout this 2 months doing the Wheel of Fear, my life has like abundantly been blessed. It has been so cool to flip the script. So there's just so many layers to this podcast that has been just super fun to trust the Lord and the structure of the podcast. But one of the episodes, I talked about the results from the Wheel of Fear, because one of the Wheel of Fear slices was to go to the Facebook group that this group of people, it's a closed group for those who've been diagnosed with idiopathic hypersomnia. And it's on the idiopathic hypersomnia is the brain disease that I was diagnosed with. Michelle, that's so funny. And it's on the spectrum of insomnia and whatever it's called. I always forget it when you fall asleep right away, narcolepsy. So it's on the brain disease that I was diagnosed with that I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes sense to my entire life, is that I'm such a fatigued person, and my brain capacity, which I know people don't believe me or don't understand that this is a truth, because you don't often see me unless you've seen me live. This time 2 years ago, I was showing up on the Bible study at Barn 45 when I was working with Joy and I doing the Bible study. I mean, there were mornings I just couldn't access words. My brain would just be like a dimmer switch. It would be completely dim to almost off. Or the other dimmer switch is energy level. So there's 2 dimmer switches, and they can take turns. They can be exactly both, which then low, which means I'm bedridden, no physical energy, yet no body pain, no aches, nothing. And my brain capacity, like I can't read in bed because I can't comprehend a sentence. Like I can't pull out meaning, and I can't share anything meaningfully. I can't put words together. I can't word recall. It's really, really awful. So then when I go into this Facebook group, when I first was diagnosed, I thought, okay, now listen to this language. I thought I will be able to get some wisdom. We're always looking for answers. If it's a marriage scenario, if it's how to make your dog happy scenario, my arm is really achy. It could be about parenting. It could be about career and, where to live. It could be any area of our life. Y'all, we're just looking for answers, aren't we? We're looking for wisdom. And we all have the ability to tap into God through a relationship with Jesus. We can say, God, what do you want me to know? What do you want me to know? However, no, not however, and because I do that real well, even with brain disease, and I went to this group and I wanted answers. And that's why people who have the same diagnosis go to this group to see what medications are helping. What are you guys doing? And pretty much 99% of the correspondence in this Facebook group is all about what medication is it working and when does it stop working and the side effects from the medication. So I caught on to that really quickly and I'm like, well, I want wisdom. But this seems to me, it felt heavy and it was super dark and it was super hopeless and people were losing their jobs and they were losing their marriages and they couldn't parent. I mean, y'all, this brain disease says the very limited data on it that it only gets worse with age. And I'm like, this is my future. This is what I am going to be expecting. Well, I know better than that because I also have this wisdom. So here I am in the world when I'm diagnosed with something that is scary, yet at the same time, it makes sense to how I've been feeling even in my 20s when I was a pretty active young person, no children yet. So it's not like, oh, well, you're raising kids or you have a full-time job or your husband travels for a living, like all the reasons why you are feeling the way you're feeling. So all the noise, everyone's wisdom, everybody's advice, everyone's 2 cents, from doctors to just acquaintances. I remember people saying things to me like, don't attach yourself to this diagnosis. And I know what they meant by it. And it didn't bother me because I knew the person who was saying it. Like, don't let it identify you. And I am like in the thick of this, barely being able to get out of bed 2 years ago. Barely able to get out of bed and use my mind. And I'm like, for you to tell me right now not to attach myself to this disease, I immediately pictured a leech. And I'm like, that would be like a leech on my body and you telling me, don't attach yourself to the leech. Don't attach yourself to it. Don't identify. That's not really, okay. Anyway, don't attach yourself to the leech. And I'm like, I'm not the one attaching myself. The leech, it's doing its thing. It's cancer. It's a diagnosis. It's a brain disease. It's my brain. I'm not making this happen. It's happening to me. And I love God with all my heart, with all my soul, with all my strength. And I know that God is not doing this to me. He didn't make this happen. But I do also know that He allows things to happen. I do know that. I do believe in the wisdom and the way of the Lord that's greater than my wisdom, that He does through scripture, through studying God's character. I know that God is good and He allows things to happen, always for our good. So when I hear, don't attach yourself to it, or, hey, have you tried this? Or are you doing this? Or back into this Facebook group. Now, here's why the Facebook group is important, is because I didn't know. I was honoring. Now, here comes the language. It's all going to wrap up now. I was honoring others because they too had the same diagnosis. Sometimes when we find a group that we associate with, that we relate with, we tend to honor them maybe more than we honor ourselves, and maybe more than we honor our God. We honor other people's wisdom. We honor the group that we're associating with. So the word honor in chapter 26 had a new adjustment. And then this concept of laziness. Now, y'all, if anyone called me lazy, and I know in this group of people, because bedridden, and there's no other obvious side effects. There's nothing to show for the brain. The circadian rhythm is off. Wires are crossed or not enough or whatever, which is why there's narcolepsy, there's idiopathic or just hypersomnia. Idiopathic just means there's no causation and no cure, maybe. But or narcolepsy. It's like, listen, so then they can look like they're being lazy. They look like they're being lazy. And so when I read the word lazy, now if I read this 2 years ago, I don't know how I would feel about it. But reading it now and seeing the term lazy and interacting with people who have the same diagnosis, I now know what divine wisdom is saying. There, more often than not, we are honoring the doctor. We're honoring the diagnosis. We're honoring science. We're honoring the medical professional field who is admitting not knowing a lot about it. There's not a lot of research. Okay, so if there's not a lot of research, why are we putting all of our eggs in the basket of their advice, of their wisdom, and of their medical advice, and the 2 or 3 or 4 medicines that are barely out there, very expensive sometimes and hard to get? And if you have the right insurance with the right doctor and the right paperwork, and good luck filling out the paperwork, because you can't even have energy or the brain flow to fill out the paperwork and to submit the paperwork and keep going on and on and on. And so the narrow perspective and the hope on in just this little area and all these heavy medications that, by the way, the medication, you either become addicted or you have all these different side effects to keep you energized throughout the day or to help you sleep at night. It's one or the other. And so the wisdom and the medication, so there's not a lot out there, and what is out there has these other side effects, and then your body becomes used to them. And so there will be a point in a time that it won't even work anymore and you'll be on to another medication. When I entered into this, loving the Lord with all my heart, with all my soul, and all my strength, and receiving an answer that made sense to my entire life, an answer, not capital W wisdom, a diagnosis, an answer. It seems to make sense. Wow, I'm seen, I'm understood for the first time in my life, yet it feels very hopeless, dark, all the way to people who want to take their own lives because it's just, you can't even read good books or comprehend anything when you're in bed. You're bedridden and your brain is shut off. What purpose is there for me on this? I can't raise my kids. I can't love my spouse. It's unbelievably dark. Okay. So I'm reading verse 26. I'm reading chapter 26, and it's all about the fools. Now, if you followed me along with Proverbs is showing us that we're all fools. We're all sheeps. We're all doing the very best we can. It's who is willing to be aware of their foolishness and who is not. Okay? And so when I'm aware of my foolishness, I'm already not a fool because I am a person of peace, and I am increasing my self-awareness, my soul awareness, and I am honoring God more than anyone else. And so God awareness, spiritual awareness, Terra soul awareness. I am a person of peace. I'm more and more self-aware, more and more spiritually aware. And I'm humble to anything and everything my God tells me. Now, if you followed my journey, so much of what I do might not make sense. Like, why would she stop doing this? Why would she start doing that? But this is going so well. Well, what about that? Well, maybe she should consider this. Like, y'all, I'm sure you've been on this journey with me, it's just, but all I've done the entire time, as Jagger's now dreaming out loud with us, all I've done is cling to the capital W wisdom. And I know that if I put my hope in God, I will not be harmed. I will not be disappointed. I will not be led astray. And this brain disease, By the way, I have the helmet of salvation. I'm already healed because I was born of heaven. I'm returning to heaven, and that guaranteed I'm healed. And in this body, in this time, however long it lasts, it could be tomorrow, it could be 50 more years. Do you hear him? Do you hear Jagger? Okay, you distracted me again. Wake up. Okay, so I have to cling to that spiritual umbilical cord along my entire journey, no matter what, and even if my body is going through whatever. I am honoring God, seeking his wisdom, and honoring it above all else. Period. End of statement. What God do you want me to know? Because I know I can be foolish. I can be fool in 1 minute and wise in the next. Because I'm human, because I have a soul, because I'm emotional, because I have a mind, because I have a will how I want things to be done. We all are dependent on God's wisdom. And so as I'm going through 26, I don't like calling someone else a fool, but I'm also recognizing in my humility, when am I the fool? So it's like we all are there. All right. Okay. So when I'm in, again, there's more details in this podcast. I spun the wheel of fear, and the wheel of fear slice was go be encouragement again in this podcast. Because if you are a wise person, if you choose not to be lazy, if you choose not to be a fool, if you choose to just be a person of peace, trying to just share a nugget of wisdom, these are my people. So I should be able to feel free to share, hey, I just want to let you know what's been working for me. Okay. But what happens is when you share light in darkness, that light can be harmful first off. It's like opening your eyes first thing in the morning. Your eyes are literally burning off layers. The light from being in dark for so long overnight, you open your eyes. The reason it's in pain, you should look it up. It's a really interesting video. Your eyes hurt, but there's literally little layers of something on your eye that is being burned off so it hurts. Woo, listen to this science that is all about the spiritual exchange between light and darkness. So it can feel convicting when light shows up in darkness. Like getting our eyes adjusted to receiving new truth, to seeing things from not the full perspective. It takes a person of peace and humility to receive this conviction, to receive this nugget of truth, this light while I'm in darkness. I don't know. Sometimes we don't even know that we have meandered off into darkness. We don't always know. And anyone who says they are, it's pridefulness. We're all sheep at some point. We all are in darkness at some point. We all are believing lies at some point. We're all acting lazy at some point. We're all pretending we're wise when really it's foolish advice. Because I don't know, maybe that wasn't meant to be for that person. It was actually meant just to be for you. So anyway, we could stand on that forever. But chapter 26 really came about. Now I keep bouncing back and forth. Let me be really clear about this. Abundantly Me is one word. The Abundantly Me podcast, and it can be found on Apple, like iTunes, Apple Podcast, Anchor, and there's one other, like almost every platform. But just make sure you type it in as one word, Abundantly Me. It's the Abundantly Me podcast. I heard myself starting to say that. People are saying, Tara, I'm trying to find your podcast, but I can't find it. So I've heard myself speaking fragments, and I didn't finish that thought. But I did explain all this more thoroughly, what happened when I was light to this group. Yeah, it was not good. It I was not treated well. And I'll just leave it at that. I wasn't treated well. And as I'm reading Proverbs, the sad reality is that when you're diagnosed with anything, when your body is feeling what it's feeling, and yes, Tara says she's anchored to truth. She's anchored to the written word. She's anchored to the here and the now. Active word, God speaks now. He's speaking to you. We just might not hear it, but he's always interacting, loving us. It's always for our good. Yet we have a soul. So even though we think, now this group isn't, they're not heavily faith-based. They also don't like that about me. Not that I felt like I had pretty good discernment. But even if there's a hint of faith, they don't want to hear it. That is the purest definition of a fool. It's just the reality. And so sadly, even for those who follow Christ, we can start going 1 degree and 10 degrees and then 45 degrees off from what God is saying to us because of our fear, because of our limited beliefs. And so what happens is we think we're getting wisdom. We think we're being wise, but we need a little tap to get back on course. So all of us, as you're hearing this part, surrender to the will of God at all times in this moment. Be a person of peace and just make sure you're coming from a humble perspective, that this little seed of truth that I'm sharing with you, it just doesn't bounce off you because you're like, no, I know, I hear from God. I got it. Cause I could catch myself saying that. Like, I don't need anyone else's opinion because I know what God is telling me. That is true, but I don't believe that I don't believe that's the full truth. I feel like God wants us in community. He wants us in relationship. He wants us to receive from our earthly resources that he's given us, and he doesn't want us to miss it. He just wants us to have discernment if we're listening to wise people, if we're listening to foolish people. So bear with me. I really think this is important for all of us, regardless if you've been diagnosed with something that's limiting your life. The key is, in this group, the sad reality is there are lazy people, and they hate that word because they're bedridden and they're not lazy. They're doing the very, very best they can. And that is true, but it's not the full truth. Because when I'm offering and I'm saying, hey, I want to gently mention this, watch the food you're eating. And I didn't even say it the way listen to the whole podcast, but I didn't say it the way I'm saying it now. I'm just trying to get to the point because I'm noticing I'm up to my hour mark. Okay. When I'm sharing my healing journey, I'm sharing what worked for me. And what they're doing is they're immediately discounting my journey because it's intimidating them. It's going against what they think is wisdom. They are a brick wall. Nope. It does not apply to me. I talked about specifically cleaning up my gut health and how I knew that, and again, I didn't say it exactly like this. I'm saying it a little differently for you to get to a point faster. I was very prayerful about my wording. My wisdom that superseded the brain disease, the diagnosis. The other thing I did notice is that I also had gut health issues my entire life. I also had stress my entire life. Could I manage the stress? Yes, ma'am, like a champ. I learned in my 20s how to manage the stress. I learned how to be strong in myself. And then in my 30s and 40s, I was strong in the Lord. But I also recognized there were other things I was doing, and this is not a blame or a shame because I have a hard time with this, mostly if other people are speaking this into me. Like, I'm sorry. Are you saying that I'm doing this to myself? That just is shame on top of shame. That's just making guilt come to the surface, which shame and guilt can be healthy in the right doses. But I knew that I was going to experiment, not taking the pharmaceuticals yet. I would be willing to try it, but what I wanted to try first, which was a bold, gutsy move, I wanted to first try cleaning up my gut health. And so, nope, I don't have the money to do this, but my husband and I committed that we'd do whatever it takes because the alternative was not going to be good. So I used wisdom. So when I see the words fool and lazy, all that says to me is, Tara, don't be a fool and pretend that you're done. You know everything you need to know. And that when you're gonna sift through all the noise of what people are saying, and you and me attached to together, you and me, I'm going to show you, yes, that right there, out of all the hundreds of voices, that one. Listen to that one for a time such as this. You will know, you'll feel it in your spirit to listen in, to lean in. And I did that. And I slowly but surely, y'all, it took me a year and a half where the medicine would have given me a quick fix. The medicine would have worked maybe, but there was just a knowing that I also was dealing with other health issues. So what if, and even if I wasn't dealing with other health issues, what if I monitored what I was ingesting, what nutrients I was putting in my body? This is a nutrient. This is a nutrient. The sun is a nutrient. The foods that I eat is a nutrient. The advice that I take in is a nutrient. What am I putting in my body? I don't want to be a prideful fool and assume there's nothing I can do. And this is what that person meant with don't attach to it. Like, don't let it identify you and imprison you and say, this is who you are now. You are bedridden, period. And I love the Lord so much. And by the way, mine too. You will be incapable of doing X, Y, and Z because you won't know when your brain shuts off or not. There's a level of identification when we completely surrender that we are stuck in this, that there is no hope, there's nothing we can do. Even knowing with all my heart that God is allowing this for a time such as this. And what else do you want me to know? So there's always an and. The book of Proverbs, specifically chapter 26, is inviting us in to not be lazy. What it's saying is there is work to be done. I remember being bedridden, and the work that I did was I put a smile on my face. I'm not kidding. I'll post a picture of it maybe. But I laid there in bed, and I was miserable, slipping into depression because I could not get out of bed. It was days. I couldn't do my work, my career, my calling, what I love to do. And the work that I did in that moment was I simply laid there with a smile on my face. I grinned. The other work that I do while I was bedridden, my husband's like, what can I get you? I'll get you. What do you need? Dare not put poison in my body. And he knows I mean this. Dare not give me, and like the food trains and the meal trains, and I will not put sugar in my body. I will not eat that food that will not give me life. I will not Now, I could have this diagnosis the rest of my life, but I'm not going to make it worse by putting food in my body that just makes my taste buds happy. And yet, once it goes in, it starts to slowly deteriorate me even more. Heck no. So the laziness is, well, this is where I'm at. And so I'm not going to put in the hard work of ignoring my taste buds. I have past food addictions. I know why am I calling it addiction? Because I continue to do what my body is telling me is bad for me. But I do it anyway. You comfortable, Chiggy? I do it anyway because I desire it in the moment. I want that momentary fix, even though after it's over, I feel bad. I feel bad, or joints feel bad, whatever, I feel bad. Any kind of inflammatory food is not welcome in my system. So, so to close this up, when I'm reading through chapter 26, I'm saying, Father, I believe that there's always something more that you're trying to show me. I don't want to be lazy in this. And I'm not talking about the kind of physical laziness. I'm talking about mental laziness. I'm talking about spiritual laziness. I'm talking about surrendering to and honoring and employing, investing in, paying for people, investing in, having a team of people in my head that does not serve me well, or allowing people in my inner circle that might not serve me well for a time such as this. I am going to be straight up. The way that I was treated, the response that I got showed me in chapter 26 that they are fools. And I hate saying it, but it's true. And I know when I'm a fool, or I hope I can recognize it, or I hope that someone speaks life into me and says, Tara, you're being a fool. I want the close friends that I give permission to tell me, Tara, there's more work. It might be hard, but do the hard things. Do the hard work. No matter what, and even if, don't be a fool and don't be lazy. There's always something more. You guys, this saved my life. It saved me. I dare say that I no longer deal with the two dimmer switches controlling my life. I spent a year and a half, all the while other people were doing other things that were seemingly fixing them faster. I was doing the hard work. I dare not be lazy-minded, lazy spiritually, lazy mentally, lazy to my emotions, honoring my emotions, honoring my taste buds, honoring my addictions, which that's a big statement because an addiction is it's part of a disease also. So I'm careful with that. But we employ and we honor things that lead us astray. And I worked my beep off. I did. And some of those days I was in bed. And why was that not being lazy? Because I dare not eat foods while I'm in bed that are going to be more death to me, that are going to shut my brain off, is going to inflame my body, that is going to make me more tired. You guys, food we put in our body is killing us. And the doctor, the DO, not the MD, I begged to go to a DO because the DO would get this. And the DO said, Tara, you have a brain disease. Take this medication. That's all you can do. And I'm sorry, but she's not a physically well person. And I said, I believe in all my research prior to being diagnosed with this, because I care about wellness as well, physical wellness. I know that gut health is related to brain health. I know that gut health and cancer and sugar have a relationship to each other. I know that it's never just what is in front of us. There's always something more. And divine wisdom and maybe one other person or a couple other people's wisdom will cooperate with me. And she said, and I didn't say it all like that to her. And she said, Tara, here's the script. Get a good night's sleep. Tara, here's the script. You'll have energy throughout the day. Yeah, you might get addicted to it. Yeah, you'll have other side effects. Yeah, you'll also, your body will become numb to it. But for right now, here's a fix. And I'm using Proverbs language. I dare not be lazy. I don't mind crying and being in bed and dealing with the brain disease and saying, God, what else do you want me to know? And what else do you want me to do? Because I know that you're allowing this in for my good, but this isn't the good. Show me the good. And he says, Tara, it's going to take work. Okay, I want to do the work. I mean, I don't know how, because I can't even formulate sentences. I can't read anything. Tara, one day, one bite of food, one drink, one yes and no at a time. Are you willing to do that with me? I'm willing to do that with you. Well, good. You're not a lazy person then. Okay, well, that's good. All right. And the foolishness is when we believe we have had all the answers. Get your tush out of my face. Stretch somewhere else. Thanks you. When we believe we have it all figured out. We never have it all figured out. We never have it all figured out. No matter what the doctor says, no matter what the books say, no matter what all the advice means, whatever the current reality, I promise you, I am a living example to delayed gratification, to saying now with these words, okay, where am I being lazy? Where am I being lazy to my mind, my will, my emotions? Where am I honoring my mind, my will, my emotions? Where am I honoring someone else's perspective higher than God's perspective, higher than my own body wisdom telling me? Where can I put in some work? Where can I do more work? And we're not talking about the work that I used to do, setting goals and achieving goals kind of work. It's the mental, it's the physical, and it's the spiritual work. Help me to sustain me. The prayers, speaking prayers when I'm exhausted. That is the work. Help me to see what you see that I don't yet see. And then moment by moment, decision by decision. You guys, let me get to the end. I'll always say that. I don't know when the end is. When I catch into flames, because I am I am happily burning up. I am not only, now this is 2 years later, but a year and a half worth of diligence, doing all the things I just got through saying. I have never, and I'm not saying I've taken pharmaceuticals before. It is not a message against pharmaceuticals. There is a time and a place. For me, I delayed gratification. I took the risk. And by the way, if I did decide, knowing what I know now, if I did decide to take the medication, I still would watch what I put food in my mouth. And the food and the drink, I still would pay attention to all the sources of nutrients. So if I needed to be on the medication for my day in, day out, like functioning, I get that. Whatever kind of medication, that is a necessity. That's the best understanding at the time. I would still do everything that I did. So that is almost irrelevant at that point. But I did not need to try that yet. Now there might be a time, I'm not speaking this into existence and all that. I'm just being curious. There might be a time that I have to be on a medication, but I will know, I will have a sense of peace. I will be prayerful about it. I will seek some different opinions that I allow in, or that comes my way, and I pray about it. But for right now, in the last year and a half, yes, there were times it got expensive, but that was not a life forever thing. There were times I was on supplements. There were times that, I mean, my husband looks at me and he's like, I will never be able to eat the way you eat. However, he and I both know, but I know that that is your medicine. The food is your medicine. The food is all of our medicine, by the way. And by the way, my entire household did not change a thing. I was not dependent on anyone else around me. I honored them, but I honored myself more. So if there were pizza and Chinese food, some of my favorite, I would be part of it. I wouldn't be gripey and sassy about it. Sometimes I quietly vented, but everyone totally got it. But that was such a rarity. I knew I was fighting for my own life. So even if someone else was eating something that I shouldn't be eating, it was a hell no. I'm squeezing all the hell out of that decision, and I'm choosing perfect love to make sure that I stay on course. You guys, I am falling asleep faster and easier because I had some insomnia, horrible bouts of insomnia. I'm realizing that in this year and a half, painfully and slowly, my sleep is improved, which doesn't matter to this, by the way. If I got a full night's sleep or if I was an insomniac, no matter what, my day was the same. Trust me on that detail. That's what's so frustrating, because that's what the data showed. I'd get a good night's sleep and I don't even know what it was like to wake up refreshed. I'm getting deeper, more quality sleep. I'm shutting my brain off easier. I am less dependent on caffeine type stimulants, 5-hour energy. Come on now. If you're like, Tara, 5-hour energy is so bad. I researched so much of all the different caffeine sources, and I take just a little bit what I need, but it was okay. Anyway, I'm not going to validate that for right now, but I'm taking less of that. I am no longer on any supplements. I just prayerfully shifted off of taking the supplements. They served me well, but I could tell when it was time. So no more any outside factors. My gut health has been cleaned up. There's still more that needs to occur, but I'm taking a break. My body feels like, even though there might be a continuation of a virus or bacteria, I'm taking a break. So I'm not spending the money that I was spending before. I am awake and alert longer throughout the day, and I'm getting sleep like I never thought I would, consistently. And the way that I was honoring so I was doing the hard work even at night. I was making sure that I was shutting off, electronic devices and TV for the most part. That was hard for me, to even have some sort of a bedtime rhythm. Very hard for me. I'm an extrovert. I'm social. I like ending with TV at the end of the night, but that's what is important. That's laziness would say, too bad. I don't care how I feel. I'm going to do it this way. So little by little, over the year and a half, I continued to do things that treated my body well. All the things I'm talking about, all of us should be doing anyway, but it was life or death as far as an abundant life or a life of scarcity and lack and imprisonment. And so I clung to that wisdom deeply and truthfully. And I couldn't, and it saddened me to know. And I was sad. I was sitting with wisdom this morning in chapter 26, and I'm like, father or grandfather. It was just like, it's so sad. But this group of people are in such darkness and despair that they've chosen that this is it. There's no other choices. You guys listen to the podcast on how they responded to me. It was foolish. It was hurtful. It was because they're afraid, honestly, of doing different things that would really challenge them. But the comments were ridiculous. They were so, but again, it just goes to show that we do fall into that foolish trap, and we are lazy, I think, more than we realize. So that I don't keep repeating myself, I think y'all got the message. There are other things we got to do today. I think I went into my workout routine a little bit. So even that got changed a little bit. But I'm going to do a little bit of working out because that was the other thing. There were times, you guys, that I had to peel myself up off the couch and just go outside and go on a walk and maybe turn it into a jog. But I mean, I remember I was crying. My body did not want, it's not because of pain, but it's almost a level of pain because my body literally all it could do is lay down. It had no ability like for that movement. And I remember I was weeping, but I was putting myself through some personal, because there's no physical therapy, but I did it myself, and some spiritual therapy. And I just got myself up little by little, even when my body couldn't. And then the times that I just was supposed to rest and the times that I was supposed to just, I mean, I just remember days, you guys, I would just be bedridden and just so sad. I would just let myself cry. I'd let myself feel the feels. I would let myself go through some fears and worst case scenarios. That's another kind of work. Like tap into your emotions and your feelings and talk to God about it. And if I'm angry with him or confused, have a conversation. That's also some hard work. That's all types of interacting that, isn't lazy. So I could talk about this forever, and I wish that I could interact with you guys a little bit more, because even if you're not diagnosed with something, we all fall into these patterns. And I close with just praying over all of us that we are people of peace because we're following the Prince of Peace. And I just pray for humility. I pray for a humble spirit so that when wisdom is speaking, that we are receiving from it, even if it feels convicting. So I guess I'll end there. It's been a long time since I've done a live, and apparently real long time because I'm on a minute, almost a minute, or an hour and 30 minutes or 15 minutes. So anyway, all right. Love y'all. Just want to see if anyone else has anything to say or share. Of course, I try to do my best to come back to these comments and read them at another time. And you guys, there's not only miraculous slow by, it's a miracle. In the medical profession, you don't get rid of hypersomnia. And so to them, that's a miracle, even though it was through my hard work. But you guys, there is so much good, even if all my circumstances haven't shifted yet. So wild what is going on. And I can't wait little by little as I feel led to share, because it's living a life with Jesus is incredible. It's exciting. It's like a roller coaster ride, and in a good way. So that's just how our soul feels, while our spirit is like, woo, yeah, let's go. So nice to see you all. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Yes. Yeah, I know. It's an hour and a half almost. Of course, you guys will need to come back later. So I love you. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Oh, and Shay, I have a message coming your way. I can't wait just to share something with you. So love you all. Have a blessed rest of your day. Go follow that Jesus. He's a pretty awesome dude. Okay, I can't hit stop. So you're with me forevs.